Don't Get Mad Gets Better says, undefeated in my pod with the deck at the moment. They literally say, well, let's see how long Tiamat lets us play for this time. I love to hear that. I'm telling you, the deck is a meta buster. This is proof, y'all. It's not just TTC. The deck works. The deck is broken. What's up, y'all? It's TTC, aka the ThunderConductor, and we back here for another YouTube video and Twitch stream. If you're on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring the bell. And if you're on Twitch, make sure you follow and ring the bell. I got a question for y'all. What is your favorite 5-color commander in cEDH? We got a lot of options nowadays, but we do have some new options as well. Starting with the new school, come on, we got Terra, the new best 5-color commander that is great with food chain. But if you want to take it back old school and you just want to say, hey, yo, what about Kenrith? Honestly, it's just such a wild card in the format. We don't know whether you're going Reanimator, just breach good stuff, or just good stuff in general. And now with the new Gifts Ungiven, it's really not hard to go that brute path. But TTC wants to talk about something that has honestly been wrecking my local meta and also has been really doing phenomenal in my online community as well. TTC wants to talk about Tiamat. If you have not known, I really have been really bullish on this commander ever since we did the Takura Dragonstormers drops. If you're not familiar, Tiamat is a WUBRG commander that costs 2 colorless in WUBRG. It is a 7/7 legendary creature, Dragon God, that says flying. When Tiamat enters, if you cast it, search your library for up to 5 dragon cards not named Tiamat that each have a different names, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle. If you are up to date, we've done some other deck techs before with this one, and as you can already see, there's a lot of small changes that's been happening, and honestly, I'm so excited to talk about all these changes. But before you do, you know what I gotta say. If you're looking for more ways to support the show, we have a plethora. Starting off for our ThunderConductor Community, it's a free to join Discord community where you do everything like jamming games with me, go and we can talk about spoilers, brewing your favorite decks, and so much more. But if you want to get some extra perks like getting access to our early release and exclusive content, shoutouts on our YouTube videos and streams, as well as free proxies and discount codes, I want you to check out the Thunder Legion Patreon community. These guys rock and they keep the lights on the way in the way that they could not imagine. I want to give a humongous shout out to my Izza tier patrons, Ziggy and the Praetor, and my mono red tier patrons, Incognito, Wavy Ashira, Bissy Baxon, and B-Rad. These guys rock and they could not imagine how amazing they are in my life. But last but not least, you say, hey, T, I don't want the Patreon, the proxies, the perks. I just want to learn more about how you politic so well, or how are you making these really off the meta and meta buster decks so powerful? Or can you just help my deck become a meta buster? Check the link out in the bio. I offer one-on-one coaching to service all those needs and much more. But with that said, let's get right into it. So why Tiamat? Because at this point, honestly, I feel like I'm beating the dead horse dry, but I'm so excited. Like this, just to start off, I love this commander. It's always super exciting to play, but let's get into the facts. The facts is the last time you all saw me, I was at about 30 games on the deck and I had a 52% win rate. And I could say now at 53 games on the list, not only have we gone up in all the changes we've made, we've also gone up in our win percentage to 64% of our games have been win. And we have not even reached our full goal. So then let's get to the core of it. Why Tiamat? Well, truthfully, I believe Tiamat is a meta buster because it's dominant in all parts of the game. One of my favorite sayings I've been saying lately is you want to be turbo consistency, mid-range viability, and in-game inevitability. That just basically means that in the early game, we're just going to storm off with a Treasonous Ogre or Entomb Reanimate, which is like a Dark Ritual we can win as soon as turn 2. And also, we want to be able to hang in the mid game. That means we want to get our One Ring out, the Rhystic Study, the Esper, the Fish, or maybe a cloning someone else's. But in the late game, you want to have a commander that really can close it down. So whether I'm going casting Tiamat and just casting dragons to go dragon beats, or I'm just naturally one by one dragon storming, you want to just be inevitable from your command zone and with a powerful 99. And that's what I honestly know that Tiamat does. But we're not just here to talk about why I love Tiamat. I also want to notably just straight up just touch on all the new updates for the list. There are 9 of them, and I want to hit them very quickly because we also got some new combos I want to talk about. I'm super excited. The community has been brewing, and I've been loving every piece of it. So let's hit it. From our last deck tech in May, we've made 9 changes, like I said. First off, we took out Chain of Vapor for Into the Blood Maw. Why? This change was, if I can be fully transparent, it was just because I didn't want the rebound effect. The reason we originally were running Chain of Vapor over other bounce effects was like, okay, I wanted the spot removal effect, but I also wanted to be able to do cool things where I can bounce my own dragon, sack my lands, and do all shenanigans like that. However, in actual practice, literally the last time you all saw me play this deck, I literally had times where I had a Chain of Vapor in hand and I did not want to cast it because I had my Tiamat on board and I didn't want my opponent to sack it and bounce my Tiamat because I was also putting pressure on their life total. So Into the Flood Maw, being able to hit any 9-land permanent for just gifting it, notably just can't hit mine, was an easy switch out. But let's get to the bigger switch outs though. All right, so we took out Worldgorger Dragon. No. We took out Worldgorger Dragon for Marang River Regent, okay? If you're not familiar with Marang River Regent, it is a 6 cost, 4 colorless and 2 blue dragon. That's a 6/7, and its base like ability is as flying, and when it enters, you can return up to 2 other target 9-land permanents to their owner's hands. Kind of like a dragon Hullbreaker Horror, okay? But it doesn't loop by itself, it needs assistance, okay? And we'll get to that combo. But it also has a cool ability for 3 colors in the blue. Instead of being an adventure ability, it has the Omen ability that says draw 3 cards and discard a card. So not only do we have card advantage, we have removal, but we also have a way to feed our graveyard to put our Hoarding Brute Lord into the graveyard. And so I loved all these abilities, and truthfully, this switch out came from just the need to just upgrade. I saw other people playing it. I did the math in my head. I ran it over 100 times, and I realized that though I've never been blown out by my own Worldgorger Dragon, because I promote people like, hey, do it at instant speed or behind a sounds effect, and also have your redirection effects, your deflecting swats, your untimely malfunctions, and all the other stuff to make sure you don't have to navigate that. But it just was times because I was playing so safe, I wasn't pushing my own lines. And so what ended up happening is I would have the Worldgorger Dragon win, I'd have Entomb, Reanimate, Animate Dead, and I'd have my Surveil led land on board, and I just wouldn't push because I just saw it wasn't a good window, or I didn't have enough protection. And that led me to eventually say, maybe this is the best one. Let me explore other things like the Marang River Regent that people have been running with a new combo that we'll get to soon. All right, so hard switch out, but as one of my good friends, Busy Baxter, says, sometimes the OG cat cards just get outclassed. And seeing how Worldgorger Dragon came out in 2002, it's almost been 25 years. New cards have come out, new things have happened, and sometimes you got to let go of the old to bring in something new. So I love the switch out, and it was really cool to see that. With that said, though, since we are switching out powerful effects like Worldgorger Dragon for Marang Regent, there were some other changes we made. But before we do that, let's see here. We got Don't Get Mad, Get Better saying, tell me why I put this deck together with Worldgorger, and when you changed the River Regent, I was like, well, we got to get that too. Hey, my bad, dog. Hey, like, we're always evolving. Like, bro, I've been putting crazy hours into brewing, goldfishing, everything for this list, and I kid you not, like, my bad, dog. I kid you not, it was not even intentional like that. I just kept brewing, and I'll tell you, every card that after this point that you see me switch out, it has been more about this, like, the list is working, I'm winning a lot, but it can be better though. And for me, I want the list to feel as good as it's actually playing. And if I'm not playing, if something feels off, then I'm just gonna let it go. And Worldgorger Dragon was feeling great, but a lot of the other cards that complemented it, as well as the own combo itself, sometimes just didn't feel great because I couldn't push my own combo because I just was skilled enough to know don't push the line right now. It's just a bad window. People are waiting with a lot of spot removal or counter magic. It's just not a great cast it naked combo unless you're on top, winning on top of another player. So my bad, dog. Luckily, it shouldn't be too expensive because it did, like, we spent a couple sets, maybe it's up, but actually how much does this card cost right now? Let's see. Hopefully we didn't gouge you too much. Oh, come on. TCG player, or maybe not that one. Card Kingdom, $3.49. You should be Gucci. All right, let's get back to it then. The next switch out, really big one, really awesome one. We took out, since we're already off Worldgorger Dragon, we took out Dance of the Dead and added in Shallow Grave. Shallow Grave over Dance of the Dead was truthfully, once again, it didn't feel great. Dance of the Dead, notably with our Hoarding Brute Lord, you usually have to tap to convoke Hoarding Brute Lord, and Dance of the Dead, notably making your creature enter untapped, means like the deck was slower. It was clunkier. It just never felt good. And so after a lot of digging, we eventually decided to get on Shallow Grave. Notably, its instant speed. It does notably have the weakness of if your opponents are able to mill you or kill a creature you have on board, and Hoarding Brute Lord is no longer the top creature in your graveyard, you'll be reanimating a different creature. But its effect to be instant speed, as well as its ability to let Hoarding Brute Lord come in untapped, was valuable. And we'll actually get into the new Shallow Grave combo in a little bit. Stay tuned. All right. Next switch out was taking out Undercity Sewer for the starting town. Notably, similar thing. That tap land, even though it comboed off really great with Necromancy plus Worldgorger Dragon being able to infinitely surveil, I still think this combo is stupidly valuable. Literally 4 mana, you can win at instant speed. Entomb plus Necromancy, and you just win the game at instant speed. Super good, and your only prerequisites is that you have Thassa's in your library or already in your graveyard, and your Undercity Sewers on board. Super easy, and I won a lot of games with this exact combo. However, the tap land sometimes will mess with the turbo game plan. Remember, it's about turbo consistency, mid-range viability, and late game inevitability. But we're a turbo deck first, and because sometimes that came in tapped on turn 1 or 2, or we had to intentionally fetch for an early game, it kind of messed up our game plan or made things more difficult than they needed to be. So it was that land that never felt amazing, but once Starting Town came out, it's exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for another 5-color land that I could put in the deck that also wouldn't fully like mess up my color fixing or anything, or make anything too hard. There are a lot of other powerful effects, but some require artifacts to be on board and all these other things, and I was like, nah. So that Undercity Sewers out for the Starting Town was muy delicioso. Next up, we do have a big one. We took out Jeska's Will for Invoke Calamity. Now, we all know what Jeska's Will is, but some people may not know what Invoke Calamity is, so let's read it. It's a colorless and 4-red instant speed spell that says you may cast up to 2 instant and sorcery spells with total mana value 6 or less from your graveyard and or your hand without paying their mana costs. If those spells will be put into your graveyard, exile them instead, and exile Invoke Calamity. What does that mean? So this basically means if you cast a spell from your hand, say if you're, just as a value piece, say you cast your D-Tutor, it gets blown out, and all right, I'll just pass turn. I can crack my Tinder Wall, use my Treasonous Orc, or whatever I want to cast this, or re-get my Demonic Tutor from the hand, and let's say also go cast the Entomb from our hand as well, or however we want to stack it, or whatever. Not, we also can cast a piece of expensive countermatch like a Sink in the Stupor with this as well, while getting value from our graveyard. There's a lot of value pieces that can be done with this, but the main reason we're running this piece is because it's ingrained as well with our Shallow Grave combo, which is part of a Hoarding Brute Lord instant speed line that we'll talk about very soon. But very cool value piece. Tough to cast in a 5-color list, not impossible, especially when we're running powerful cards. Like, of course, we have the Treasonous Ogre, we have Tinder Wall, we have Ride of Flame Still, and notably also just have one of the best ones, which is notably Burnt Offering. To sack a creature and make red and black mana makes casting this spell super easy. Okay, so the next switch out I want to do, and before we do, let's check out what our homeboy Don't Get Mad Gets Better says, undefeated in my pod with the deck at the moment. They literally say, well, let's see how long Tiamat lets us play for this time. I love to hear that. I'm telling you, the deck is a meta buster. It's really good. And it's just, if you know how to play incognito, whether it's explosive in the early game or just outplaying people in the mid to the late game, it's so powerful. And we have Don't Get Mad Get Better also saying, I even consistently beat the Get Rock deck that I asked you guys way back then. That's awesome. Congratulations. Oh my, I'm about to scream, bro. That's amazing. Like, I got like literally, we got to go back in our Patreon exclusive content that we dropped maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. We were talking about Don't Get Mad Get Better, and he was asking about a Get Right deck, trying to navigate that. And now to be able to hear that he is literally 8-0 versus his local meta with this Tiamat brew is so fucking exciting. So it's like, this is proof, y'all. It's not just TTC. The deck works. The deck is broken. I'm telling you, it's a meta buster. It literally says, hey meta, knock him out. You know what I'm saying? I'm so happy for you, brother. I'm beyond happy. Let's get it. All right, let's get back to updates. Come on. So, notably, last thing about I didn't mention this, but with Jeska's Will, cool card. It was a card that I was really looking forward to testing, but wasn't really like pressed on it. Notably, it was there to help cast like expensive spells like Dragon Storm, help cast spells like Dracogenesis, or maybe even like turn 3 mana to 4 mana to get out a Treasonous Ogre. However, always in practice, I never felt like the need for it. And so I was like, this kind of still was in that flex spot. I felt final mana even without it. And so let's just let the big mana producer of Jeska's Will go. Because usually if they have enough cards to feel like to cast my Dragon Storm, then I probably am pushing at a bad window unless I'm already behind the silence effect. And by then, usually I already am set mana wise because the deck makes so much mana in an explosive way. So we let Jeska's Will go. And like I said, we got into Invoke Calamity. Next, though, I did make another big switch out, and we took out Destiny Spinner for Final Fortune. Okay, shout out to the new art. So Destiny Spinner was another one. I was just trying it out. I loved that I could use Enlightened Tutor to tutor for like a silence effect, because at first this was Defense Grid. Then I tried Destiny Spinner, and also the cool thing about Destiny Spinner that I enabled us to be able to do is like, if you're not familiar with this Vex Bauble. Vexing Bauble is a card that's a little inconvenient to our list. Vexing Bauble is one colorless. Whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. You can pay 1, tap it, sacrifice Vexing Bauble, draw a card. The problem that is inconvenient for us is we're trying to convoke things out. We're hoarding Broodlord. We're trying to cast things for free with Dracogenesis and Dream Halls. So this can be inconvenient against us in the list, being such a powerful stacks effect, as well as like in some places a silence effect when you're trying to push a win depending on the line you're going for. And it's just a value piece that a lot of decks will just drop on turn 1. And what Destiny Spinner was allowing us to do is have a way to win through it, even if it was on board. And in a way protect our creatures and our enchantment spells, which Dracogenesis, Dream Halls, as well as our creatures. The problem is, it felt... let me find a better word. It felt lackluster, and I never wanted to tutor for it. Every time I saw it, I said, I don't want to commit 2 mana because I'd have like an instant speed line, or I needed more mana up to hold up my interaction so I can make sure I untap again. And though it was a really good blocker, I really wasn't in love with it. And so eventually this was one of the hardest switch outs, because it wasn't hard to take Destiny Spinner out. It was hard to find what I need to add to it. And that's when I eventually said, oh shit, I had been looking for a card to switch out for Final Fortune like forever. Like literally, I was like, man, what can I switch out for Final Fortune? What can I switch out for Final Fortune? And after all that searching, I finally said, oh, let's go back to Final Fortune and see what we can do with it. And we'll get to the combo lines, but not only does it layer well with our new instant speed hoarding Broodlord lines, it also in some ways is a blocker. If you think about how it plays, like it basically lets you cut line in a way. So say if I'm player 1 and player 3 has lethal for me. So, and player 3 has lethal for, it's a Jet Me or whatever not, you know what I'm saying? They have lethal for player me and player 2, you know what I'm saying? So I just, instead of jamming something neckly, I pass turn and player 2 says, well, I'm gonna die either way, so I'm gonna jam. And we let them jam first. They go through the thing, they get blown out. And instead of having to try to over politic here, that's when I can use the Final Fortress as a blocker and then present my win on that next turn. So it's a very like, even though it's like I lose the game, it lets you just cut line and really do something that I really love. Like originally was a mono red Reunion Fire Dancer pilot, so I really love to see Final Fortune just do this awesome effect. And I'm just happy because I've been trying to get in the list for so long. And so fun, like side note and a fun fact, what's been so much fun about brewing this list is that there were so many cards that I was trying to get in the list initially, but I said, let me just find the core first. And literally over time, once I solidified the cards that really just could not get left behind, I was able to shed off the pieces that were kind of like, I guess I don't have to run that. I guess I don't have to run that, and really find powerful slots for like Born Upon the Wind and Final Fortune. Because at first the list kind of suffered not being able to win at instant speed, but now that I have literally like 3 different lines for instant speed lines, it is so awesome. Technically 4, but there's 3 lines for instant speed wins. So much fun, and I love it so much. But I digress. Notably, even though we're taking Destiny Spinner out, don't worry. If you play the list, you still have a way to win through Vexing Bobble, the evil Vexing Bobble. What we use instead is, instead of using our Destiny Spinner, we just use Veil of Summer. If you're not familiar with this card, Veil of Summer is just 1 green for an instant speed spell that says draw a card. If an opponent has cast a blue or black spell this turn, it says period. Spells you control can't be countered this turn. So Vexing Bobble saying if you convoke or cast something for free, it gets countered. It's saying period, your spells can't get countered for that turn. And then next it says you and permanents control gain hexproof from blue and black until the end of turn. We mostly care about the line of text that says spells you control can't be countered this turn. So we still have a way to play through the Vexing Bobble. We just have less effects that can protect us. So not the end of the world, but just knowing and having that tech to saying I can still win through a Vexing Bobble is important for us as Tiamat pilots. All right, but let's get to the next switch out. Next we have the big switch out of we took out some lands. All right, and at this point, y'all, I was just getting fancy with it. I just was like, I'm like nitpicking at this point. I'm like, once again, the list keeps winning more and more, win percentage keeps climbing up higher and higher, but I'm like, I still think I can do better. I was like, there's something more that I can do. And I go, all right, I'm going to, like, Taiga wasn't feeling the best. Once again, similar to Undercity Sewers and Dance of Dead, Taiga wasn't feeling amazing. And I was looking at Boseiju because it was another card similar to Final Fortune that I wanted to find a slot. I knew it wasn't in the earliest iteration of the list, but I always knew eventually I'm going to find a slot to get it back in. So then I thought about it and I was like, all right, if I take Taiga out, it will make Arid Mesa no longer be a 5-color a 5-color fetch land. And what I mean by 5-color fetch land is you want your fetch lands, if you're in a 5-color deck, to be able to get white, blue, black, red, and green. And when you take Taiga out, Arid Mesa, because I'm not on Savannah, cannot get Taiga anymore to go get green. So what I end up doing is I just looked through all my fetch lands and just did all the little math for it, and I found if I take Boseiju out, if I take Arid Mesa out for Boseiju, so I have the additional removal, and then I take Taiga out for Plateau, it allows all the remainder of my fetch lands, notably these are the fetch lands we're still on. If you want to take a quick glance, we're still on this Bloodstained Mire, Flooded Strand, Marsh Flats, Misty Rainforest, Polluted Delta, Scalding Tarn, Verdant Catacombs, and Windswept Heath. It allows all the remainder of my fetch lands to be able to still fetch for any color we want, as long as like the land is not already in our hand. And that's really important because we're a 5C land, and in the early game we need to be able to fix however we want to, and that's important. And if you're wondering, notably we chose Plateau over Savannah because if you look at our list now, we have a lot more demanding double red pips than we do double green pips, like everything from the Invoke Calamity, the Final Fortune, like the Dracogenesis I put down below, the Terror of the Peaks, all these other things, the Blade Wing Risen. We have a lot more double red pip need. So being able to, or just getting out of Treasonous Ogre, these are a lot more important. So we decided to go with the Plateau over the Savannah being white green, even though we have more 1-pip green things to get out on turn 1. We wanted to prioritize the red. So just see if you're kind of curious about that. But this, like at that point, we were just trying to get fancy with it. We were just trying to say like, hey, I think I can push the list even more. And last but not least, the last switch out for our Tiamat brew since our May 9th update was we took out Noxious Revival for Daze. Okay, if you're not familiar with Daze, it is one of the rock side counter spells that I wanted to put in but was unsure if it was really needed, and I was kind of like I'm not sure. Basically, Daze is a free counter spell that says you may return an island you control to the owner's hand rather than pay this spell's mana cost, and it says counter target spell unless the controller pays 1. We are a turbo deck, and so the original reason for this switch out is because I literally played a game at my local LGS, well, one of them, and playing this was going for turn 2 Dream Halls. No one had any interaction for Dream Halls, but the minute Dream Halls landed, I turned on one of my opponent's mono blue Teferi Planeswalker. I turned on his mana drain, and he mana drained me. And I looked at the last card in my hand, and it was a Noxious Revival. And so that was the first whiff, like, maybe this can be something else. Maybe be some free counter magic. the next thing I noticed is after that long game that it turned into a super long game that went to like somewhere between like turn like 6 and 9, the Noxious Revival never was cast. I never cast it for value or anything, because I eventually wanted to use it for the combo line. And if you're ever wondering, Noxious Revival was in the list because it helps ramps us with our fetch lands, things like Arid Mace or other things along that. But it's also really great with our Hoarding Brute Lord, because Hoarding Brute Lord directly says search a library from your deck onto you into exile face down. And so if you've already cast this spell, you can use Hoarding Brute Lord's first ETB, go get Noxious Revival, and then with the second copy it from like a saw and a half, you can just Noxious Revival first, put the card you want back in there, let the second ETB resolve, and then you can like get the spell back. For example, like our Dream Halls or our Draco Genesis or Dragonstorm, whatever, our big spells. Unfortunately though, even though it's super flexible, can even like disrupt Thassa's combos, all these other things, it at the time and even in a lot of games wasn't enough, because I needed more interaction. And I didn't need no mana drain, I didn't need a dispel or any of that. I needed a free piece of interaction that I can consistently play on the early game to be able to protect it. And so I made this switch out, and over time I tested it and tested it and tested, and it's actually really felt amazing. Notably, I even played 5 games last night with some really new cool, they're cool dudes, but they're new to me, but they've been playing cEDH for a while now. I met them, and I actually had a game where I had a turn 2 Ristic, and it was turn 2 Ristic, and I didn't have any backup other than Daze in my hand. And I was unsure, because I usually don't want to keep a turn 2 Ristic because I want to do something more proactive. And I tested the hand because I wanted to see how, like, I loved how comfortable I felt about slamming that turn 2 Ristic play 1, even though I know Ristic said he's the most broken card in a Turbulence sometimes, especially because I was on the first 7. I was like, I'm gonna take this hand just because I feel comfortable that my Ristic is gonna land, and on seat 1 I can really establish some really crazy things with this turn 2 Ristic. I loved it so much, and not only did I not need to use the Daze, I was able to pivot into a turn 3 Rin where I had 3 pieces of backup, being Daze, Red Elemental Blast, and Swan Song, I believe. Literally, I was able to go for a Thassa's Tainted back plus 3 pieces of backup because of everything that I had going on with that Ristic, plus having the extra piece of interaction. And so being able to go turn 3 win, seat 1 is exactly what our list wants to do. It's turn 2 to 3 protected win. So really awesome include. Still pressure testing this one, seeing if there's ever a time like, oh, is this what scenarios is it bad and other things. But even the other lists, I found that it's great early game, and it's also in the mid to late game. What I love about Daze is it's a great counter spell, not the beginning of a counter war, more of like the middle to the end, when mana starts to get a little tight. You know you're about to do a Flusterstorm, or you know, or they're drawing off their Ristic. Let's go ahead and Daze them real quick so they can use some of their mana, and then we'll hit them with that Force of Will or whatever not, because we knew 2 turns earlier they revealed a Swan Song, and they're cucked in dirt. Like if they tap that last land, they either have to use the Swan Song on the Daze, or they have to tap the land, and they may think we must be they may think that we're at the last of our chain. And so yeah, we really love it. And notably, it lets us bounce a land to our hand, which also we can use to feed a Mox Diamond. It's free ramp. I love this. I love it so much utility. It's really powerful. And with that being said, that's our switch outs for this list. It's been really powerful. Everything's been really feeling good, and a lot of it's been me just saying, I know the list is working, I know I'm winning a lot, but we can do better. So before I get to my next segment, I just want to talk about just real quickly, if you all didn't already know, once again, if you're looking for ways to support the channel, we have a plethora. Please check out our ThunderConductor Community. This is a free to join Discord community where we jam games, talk about spoilers, talk about brews, and just have an awesome time. But if you want extra perks like early releases and exclusive content, as well as shouts in our streams and YouTube videos, and or just free proxies and discount codes, I want you to check out the Thunder Legion Patreon community. These guys rock and keep the lights on the way that I could not imagine. Check out the Is It tier patrons, Ziggy and the Praetor, and also huge shout out to our mono red tier patrons, Incognito, Wavy Ashira, Bissy Baxton, and B-Rad. These guys rock and keep the lights on the way that they could not imagine. But and last but not least, once again, if you're loving this deck tech and you just want to learn more about how I play Tiamat, or if you say, T, how do you politics a war, or can you help my list become a meta buster too? Don't worry, check the link down in the bio. I offer coaching services to be able to service all those needs and much more. So let's get it back to the deck tech. All right, so What now? We've been doing great. Everything's been winning. The list has been doing great. So now, TDC, I'm hearing that you said we have some new combos. Oh, I'm glad you asked. So let's talk combos. Let's talk combos. We have some new combos. I want to talk on these new combos because they're really important. And truthfully, I'm not gonna lie, they're complex. Let's start with a kind of simple one. This is the new Marang combo. I believe the pilots' names are Cinnamon and Storm. They thought of this new Marang combo using the new Marang River Regent that we added to the list. And so let's just start and let's just rock that out. So how the new Marang combo works is you're using Marang River Regent with Miram Sentinel Worm and Draco Genesis. So let's move all these to our library and get those 3 cards. So we'll get Marang. We're gonna get Miram. And we're gonna get Draco Genesis. Close and shuffle. So how you get these cards, it really doesn't matter. But the main thing to understand is you're able to get these cards very easily, literally just by casting the Draco Genesis, because then you can cast your Tiamat and they can get you the Marang and the Miram. But let's just not think about the Tiamat. Let's just say we have Draco Genesis on board. We cast our Miram for free. If you're not familiar, Miram specifically says that it is a legendary creature, dragon spirit, for 3 colorless and teamer. Whenever another token non-token dragon you control enters, create a token that's a copy of it, except the token isn't legendary. So with that, what I do, let's get that webcam going so y'all can see me. Okay, there we go. We will cast Marang. It will trigger itself as well as Miram Sentinel Worm. You're going to resolve this first trigger first, and you can hit any 2 non-land permanents you want anywhere on the board. You just can't hit itself. But that's where Miram comes in. It will trigger and make a token copy of Marang. And when we make that token copy right here, it will then trigger not the Miram, but it will trigger itself. First, for one target will be the original Marang, and the other target can be anything you want. And so if you can see, we've reset the loop, but we have an extra Marang on the battlefield. And so it's just rinse, wash, and repeat. And so we just make another Marang, trigger, bounce 2 things, make a token copy, boom, boom, boom. Where is that? There we go. Make a token copy, we bounce back the original Marang and one other thing, and then we can do that infinitely. So then you say, all right, TTC, this is really cool. What do you do with these infinite ETBs? Well, the first and the simplest what we do is we all know about our main win con for the list, which is Tear the Peaks. Tear the Peaks just says whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Tear the Peaks deals damage to that creature's power to any target. So you can do infinite ETBs from the token copies of Marang, press the original Marang. So we're good there. Another option we have, though, is say if we don't want to do Tear the Peaks, say if we want to do something like Hoarding Brute Lord. We can loop Hoarding Brute Lord for free because of Draco Genesis to tutor every card out of our library, and then we could transition literally into just the best card in the format, Thassa's Oracle. Because if your library is empty, or literally you just need your devotion high enough, you don't have to search out. You'll make infinite blue creatures, and your devotion will be infinite. You just cast Thassa's Oracle, and you win the game. But then you say, well, TDC, but what if my Thassa's Oracle is exiled, and I don't have access to it? And so what if my Tear the Peaks is exiled, and I don't have access to that? All right, so then our last option is still Orcish Bowmasters. Now you'll say, TTC, I thought we can't win with Orcish Bowmasters anymore because you took out the Worldgorger Dragon. Don't worry, yes we can. By using Hoarding Brute Lord, we can use the first couple of ETBs to get mana rocks. So say if we use the first one to go get a mana vault, and we'll use the second one to go get an arcane signet. And these are just example ones. And we'll use the third one to go get an Orcish Bowmasters. What I'll do is, with the mana vault, whether it's already on board or it's for some other reason available to us for some other reason, all we're gonna do is those targets with these Marang copies that we're bouncing will float the colorless mana off of it and we'll shoot it back to our hand. And similar to Hordebreaker Horde, we'll use one of the 3 colorless mana to float, to recast it, float it again, and while we're performing the Marang loop, we'll bounce it back. we'll continue this loop to first it, and don't worry about Mystic Remorse and Ristic Studies, because you'll bounce all these to their opponent's hands while you're doing the loop. But you can make infinite colors with the mana vault. You can follow that up by making infinite black mana and mana of every color with your arcane signet, and then you can loop your Orcish Bowmasters to do infinite pings to the table. This is just scratching the surface, because we can also do things like with the One Ring, we can bounce our with making infinite colors and bouncing the One Ring, we can infinitely draw our deck. There's infinite possibilities, but literally that's the power of this Marang combo. Yes, it's a little bit more, I wouldn't call it more fragile, but it is more card dependent, because if you ever lose your Miram or if you lose your Draco Genesis, the combo is not possible. But the cool thing about Marang is that it's still a card draw effect that shuffles back into our library, that synergizes well with our Tiamat, as well as a discard effect for our Hoarding Brute Lord, which is really good. I've actually won games by just casting a value Marang on the Omen ability, and already having a Hoarding Brute Lord in hand, but I literally drew the Reanimator effect plus a Simian Spirit Guide that had me exact enough mana to just discard Hoarding Brute Lord and just win with Saw and a Half combo. And it was really cool, like one of the coolest wins I've ever done. So that's all possible. And like I said, it's just outside of the need of needing all three pieces available, and notably you do have to make sure your Miram is on the board first, because if your Marang is on the board first, let's clean this board up just a wee bit. Select the Draco Genesis on board, and we cast the Marang first. If you cast the Marang first, the problem is Marang can only hit 2 other non-land permanents. So if you go to cast the Miram for second, your loop will not work. So you would need a way to bounce and reset the loop if you want to present it. And notably, we're not on Chain of Vapor anymore, so you are limited on your number of ways to bounce things. So remember always to start with your Miram and then follow up with a Marang. Good. All right. So you say TDC. All right, that's real cool. And also shout out to Cinnamon and Storm. They really did their thing with this combo. But you saying we also have a new Hoarding Brute Lord combo that people are doing, and we're using that over the Worldgorger Dragon plus Surveil Land and Necromancy. Yes, thank you for reminding me. So as we're bringing out all the pieces, because there's a lot of pieces part of this combo. The reason that I did this combo at all, or searched this combo up, and I'm not the originator. This is a combo that I first heard about from, shout out to Dracomancer. He played the Jeska Dragon in the tournament scene a lot. Basically what happened is I was into the Marang combo, but I didn't like that I was taking out Worldgorger Dragon and losing the ability to win at instant speed, because this was before Final Fortune, and I only had Born Opponent win at instant speed, but it was a little more expensive than I wanted to do. I didn't want that to be the only way to win at instant speed. So then basically what I ended up doing was, like, I just went on a search. I was just like, there has to be another way to make this combo work. There has to be another way to win an instant speed in my list. I just need to keep searching. And after a lot of searching, I found that the Inala lists, the Grixis Commander, they leverage this instant speed line to win in beautiful fashion. And so I want to share this with you all now. So as you all see, I'm starting off by getting Entomb and Shallowgrave. I'm also finding Hoarding Brute Lord. You're going to need Saw and Half available. You're also going to need a Burnt Offering. You're going to also need a Invoke Calamity, which is what we talked about before. You will also need a Tainted Pact. We are not on Demonic Consultation right now, but no biggie. Tainted Pact worked. You're going to need a Thassa's Oracle. And you're going to need a Necromancy. Necromancy still is part of this combo line. All right, so we're going to have all the pieces in our hand, so don't worry. We'll go through piece by piece by piece, and we will go through everything nice and slow. All right. To perform this combo, you can either have Shallow Grave or Necromancy in hand, but we're going to do the more efficient version, which includes having Entomb and Shallow Grave in the hand, and you're going to need 2 additional colorless mana. So altogether, you're going to need 5 mana, 2 black, and 3 colorless mana to do this combo at instant speed anytime. You just need to be able to search your library. You need to have ETBs active, and you also need to be able to cast spells with Invoke. So you can't do this through the Vexing Bauble, all right? So starting off, I'll use 1 black mana to cast an Entomb. That will put our Hoarding Brute Lord into the graveyard, all right? Then the Entombers Resolve, we're going to cast the Shallow Grave using a black and a colorless. Shallow Grave, once again, it says put the top creature card from your graveyard into play as though it were just played. That creature is unaffected by summoning sickness. Remove the creature from the game at the end of turn. Basically mean exile it at the beginning of the next instance, or no, exile them at the cleanup. So that will bring back our Hoarding Brute Lord to the battlefield. Similar to always, we're going to go find a Saw in Half with our Hoarding Brute Lord, all right? So we're just going to find a Saw in Half, and I'm going to use that last colorless mana as well as the Convoking of Hoarding Brute Lord to cast Saw in Half, targeting our own Hoarding Brute Lord. That will destroy Hoarding Brute Lord as well as make 2 token copies of Hoarding Brute Lord, and both of these will go back to the graveyard. And notably, because we destroyed the Hoarding Brute Lord, it won't get exiled at the beginning of the step, so that's a good thing, all right? With these 2 Hoarding Brute Lords, we're going to find a Burnt Offering, and we're going to find the Invoke Calamity, all right? So this is where we want to start tracking mana. So we're going to get out our handy dandy tokens. If you are not familiar, I got to give a huge shout out to Digital Cyclone. He provides the tokens for these channels, and honestly, it is the best tokens I've ever played with. I will have a link down the bio. You all need to check out and support this guy. Huge fan of Digital Cyclone tokens, all right? So how this goes is you're going to first start off and tap this 1 Hoarding Brute Lord to sacrifice sacrifice it in addition to cast Burnt Offering, and you're going to make 6 red mana and 2 black, okay? So let's move this over to the side, and let's make our 6 red mana. So this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we want 2 black mana. 1, 2. All right. Next, we're going to use the Convoke ability to pay for the colors, and we're going to use 4 of this red mana right here to cast Invoke Calamity. Remember, Invoke Calamity lets you cast from your hand in your graveyard, but for this example, we're only going to need to cast from our graveyard. And Invoke Calamity notably is going to cast our Saw in Half and our Entomb again, all right? These cards are not in our hand, by the way. They're in our library, but we have them there for easy access, all right? So notably, and they will get exiled. So if you need to use them again for some later combo, remember that you're not going to have access to them anymore, all right? So the Invoke Calamity is going to resolve, and it's going to go to exile, and we're going to cast the Entomb effect, which will put a Thassa's Oracle into the graveyard, and we're going to cast this Saw in Half targeting this token copy of Hoarding Brute Lord, making 2 more Hoarding Brute Lords. So we'll go boom, and we'll act like this is a new Hoarding Brute Lord, all right? Entomb will go to exile, and Saw in Half will go to exile. We'll have 2 new Hoarding Brute Lord triggers right here. And then we're going to go find Tainted Pact and Necromancy. All right. No Born Upon the Wind needed for this combo. And notably because we don't have any blue mana floating. So no Born Upon the Wind needed. So what we do is we're going to tap these 2 creatures for black, and we're going to use 1 of these reds floating. And we're going to then cast our Necromancy. When it enters the battlefield, it will become an aura, and then we're going to target our Thassa's Oracle, and then it will enter the battlefield. All right. Last but not least, we're gonna have the ETB on the stack, and we're going to tap our Thassa's Oracle to help convoke out and use 1 black mana to help convoke out a Tainted Pact. And just like we always used to, this will empty our library out, or however much you want to go down, and you will win the game by the Thassa's Oracle trigger that says our devotion has to be greater than or equal to the number of cards in the library, and we win the game. And notably, this was once again only 5 mana, and we ended with a black and a red mana. So if you want to still have up in a timely malfunction or a red elemental blast or during the combo, like, or whatever not, you can have mana up, and it doesn't have to even be a black and red. We could have notably made it 7 red mana. Say if you had a power blast and red elemental blast, and then later parts of the combo your opponents start to realize, oh, he's about to win, you can still have this floating red mana to help you interact. So it's really powerful. Love this combo. It is super cool. But wait, there's more. Say if we have, instead of this combo, say for example, a really powerful thing that can happen. Let's see, Final Fortune. This is part 2. Say if you say, but TDC, that requires the Thassa's Oracle to be in our graveyard already, or to be in our library. What if Thassa's Oracle is in your hand? And to that I say, Great question. Let's navigate that. All right, so let's start the combo over one more time with Entomb and Shallow Grave. But this time, we're going to act like Thassa's Oracle is already in our hand, so we can't Entomb or reanimate it. We have to find an alternate way to win the game, all right? So to do this combo, we're going to start off just the same. It can be necromancy, but we're going to do it like this. So we have these 3 cards in our hand. We use 1 black to cast an Entomb. That will put our Hoarding Brute Lord into the graveyard. Same as before, use another black and a colorless to cast our Shallow Grave. That will bring back Hoarding Brute Lord. And then these 2 cards in our graveyard. When this ETBs, once again, we'll use our last 2 colorless and a black to cast Saw in Half. Boop. And that will destroy the original Hoarding Brute Lord, as well as make 2 copies that are half power and half toughness. These 2 copies are still going to get the same things. They're going to go get Burnt Offering and Invoke Calamity. And so far, it's the same thing. This is where things change just a little bit, but stick with us, all right? Say Thassa's Oracle is in our hand, or say if it is, for some reason, we, what's it called, or it's in our library, and for some reason, we want to go to the extra turn, but we're just going to act like it's in our hand. That's the reason we would want to do this combo. What we're going to do is we're going to do the same as before. We're going to tap this Hoarding Brute Lord, sack it as an additional cost, and then we are going to cast this Burnt Offering. I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to, let's see if I can do this by memory. I'm going to make 6 red. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to make 2 black, just as like before. Burnt Offering will go to the graveyard, and we have 6 red and 2 black. I'm going to tap this once again to Convoke and use 4 red. And I'm going to cast this Invoke Calamity. This is going to cast Shallow Grave and Saw in Half. And so how this is going to work is we're going to first Saw in Half this token copy of Hoarding Brute Lord. That will destroy it, making 2 copies. Boom and boom. And we're also going to recast this. So we cast the Shallow Grave, that goes to exile. We also have to recast the Shallow Grave, and we need to make sure the top creature of our graveyard is still the original Hoarding Brute Lord. So now we have 3 Hoarding Brute Lord ETBs on the stack, okay? And Invoke Calamity goes to exile. With that, we're going to find a Final Fortune, all right? We're going to find a Tainted Pact, and the third option is you either find the Thassa's Oracle, but in this example, we're saying Thassa's Oracle are in our hand. So we just need to make sure we can cast Thassa's Oracle on our next turn. So we just need to have 2 lands that can make blue. So then when we do the following, which is use 2 red to cast Final Fortune, that'll give us another turn. We can then use this and this to cast a Tainted Pact right now, or we can use the floating black mana. It really doesn't matter. If you want to keep the Tainted Pact alive, you can do that. But basically, what will happen is you're going to go to your Final Fortune turn, draw a card for turn. We drew a Pact. We're going to use our 2 blue lands to cast the Thassa's Oracle. Notably, this 2 black mana will be gone because we're going into a new turn. And then, so we'll then just Convoke out. Oh, and notably, remember, this Hoarding Brute goes away because it goes to exile because of Shallow Grave. All right. So then we'll just use these 2 black to convoke out a Tainted Pact on top of the Thassa's Oracle trigger. Yes, it's a lot. But these 2 different lines allow us to win at instant speed, notably using Entomb and Shallow Grave. And that's why both of that Shallow Grave switch out is so huge, and this instant speed nature is so huge. Plus the Final Fortune being part of a backup combo line in case we have Thassa's Oracle already in our hand. And so it's super flexible. The toughest thing is I encourage you, play test it, play test it, play test it. I can already tell you, I've come close to messing up this combo line so many times. I don't even want to embarrass myself for telling you how many times I've always messed up this combo line in actual games. It is not easy. Play test it, please, for your own good. All right. With that being said, that is our new combo lines. And the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to winning the game that has changed since you all last see me is, honestly, I need to enable my tags. The biggest thing that has happened with this list is we've added in these pseudo haste enablers, being Shallow Grave, the card we just talked about, and Final Fortune. And the reason these are so huge is that what they basically says is they're haste enablers to support the Dragon Beats game plan. If I go back to my original point, our list is lethal because we are turbo consistent, mid-range viable, and inevitable in the late game. And one of the inevitable parts about it is we use our dragons and Tiamat to be able to finish off the table just purely just turning sideways with these huge dragons, dragon style, okay? So before, where we originally just had to get around summoning sickness, now we can say, all right, I'm going to cast this dragon, whether it be a Dragon Lord Dramoka to have a silence effect, or I cast this Miro to make more dragons. I can do everything I want to do, and then follow that up with just going Final Fortune or Shallow Grave to just get one more dragon out the graveyard, or one of our big beater out the graveyard to keep the line going. And so that's a really, really huge thing about all this. It's about being able to keep the pressure going. And so if you find yourself like, man, I don't have an out for combo, but I can finish people with beats, but dang it, I don't think I'll get another untap, going to use your Final Fortune and or your Shallow Grave to close the gap and make the beats a real plan that you can use. With that said, let's get into some playtest hands. I'm really excited about this. Honestly, like, it's just really, really amazing. Let's just really quickly do these playtest hands. I'm going to roll a D4 to get turn order. Let's see. We are going fourth. Let's say it's a blue farm, a Timna Clark, and a Kennen, and then we're going fourth on Tiamat. Let's deal another hand. First 7, it is a land, a Birds of Paradise, and a Ragavan. This one is interesting because we have the mana, we have the mental misstep on 4th seat. We're going against Blue Farm, Kennen, and a Mardu deck, Thrasios Quark. The only thing I don't love, what I'm looking for is a game plan and the mana to execute that game plan. I wish this had a second land drop because I could get down, I can get the Plateau out to help cast the Ragavan, or I could get a Bayou out to help cast the bird. The only problem is that one means our best plan is to lively Limdul's Vault on turn 2, ends up going into our turn 3, and then we're still in the situation where we're still a little tight on mana. I think this is a solid hand, but I want to see something better. I want to check out a second 7. It's a little cutting close in the mana. What I do love about the hand, because you have a Saw in half, we can just lively Dirge for a reanimate. Actually, hold on. Is this a turn 3 win? Land, birds, lively Dirge, unmarked grave, reanimate, tap the Hoarding Ruler for a dark ritual. Oh, this is a protected turn 3 win, and we're going against a Mardu deck. This is actually a keep. I take it back. I am wrong. Yeah, we go get Bayou for birds. I know you want to get the Ragavan out, but I'd rather get the black. We don't run the Tiger anymore, if we remember. This is actually a turn 3 win. It's protected with the mental misstep. Are we going to push turn 3? Probably not. But seat 4, turn 3 win. I actually like this. So let's just play it out. Notably, we are looking for that second land drop. And if we can get that second land drop within our first 2 draws to be able to also get out the Ragavan on turn 2, that's awesome. So we can literally go Ragavan protected with the mental misstep, lively Limdul's Vault. So this is something. Let's see what our audience says. We have D-Trove, awesome question. What is the value for Limduals in your deck? It is a tutor, first of all. It is a mulligan fixer, so I don't play wheels because I have enough big dragons that it's not, it's not good to draw to wheel our opponents when they run objectively better cards than their 99, and we could just either hit a bunch of lands because we're on 28 lands, or dragons that can be dead draws. So I leverage cards like Limdul's Vault to be able to be mulligan fixers, where I can literally have land Lotus Petal, Limdul's Vault for a fish or an Esper, untap, get myself back in the game. And so what I see in this is just a tutor in this effect. But let's play test it real quick. I was quick to try to shoot it down, but let's see. Like I said, draw for turn. It's a Boseiju. Let's see. So this is the tough, not even the tough thing. We need to be smart. In order to do the entomb the unmarked grave reanimate, we need to have 2 black sources. So part of me wants to still progress this out, but that means I won't have, well, yeah, I still need to have black blue available. So part of me is also looking at Boseiju, but then that Boseiju, this is kind of tough, but not really tough. There's a universe where I go bop bop and then plateau here, but then I won't have the mana open for the Limdul's Vault. So then what I want to do is stick with the original playing plan, see what we draw on turn 2, because we may grab another fetch land. We go Windswept for, and I can zoom this in for y'all. I don't have to make y'all suffer and not be able to see the board. We can go Windswept with birds. Turn 2, play the if we don't draw another land, still play the Boseiju, and we just play the Limdul's Vault, and then we can on turn 3, if we think it's a good window. Like I said, we're going against a Kennen and a blue farm, and if the Mardu deck has not forced them to waste interaction, then this may not be the best plan. We're able to go with just the 3 mana we have, which is 1, 2, 3. We go Unmarked Grave, reanimate. We get off the Lively Dirt, the Limdul's Vault, and we get a Dark Ritual to go Saw in half, and that would be a win right there. But let's just simulate it, and we're just gold fishing just to show viability. And we do have a Mental Misstep for backup, but it's I would like a little bit more than that, but we'll see. So we'll just play the Windswept Heath. We'll crack it, go get a Bayou. So we have the green source for the birds. We pass the birds. Make sure to shuffle this up one more time. We'll go to turn 2. It's an exotic orchard. I love to see that. What I will do is tap the birds for a Ragavan, and then I'll pass turn, having a Limdul's Vault up with a Mental Misstep. The Ragavan notably will give us an extra treasure to be, well, we can hit somebody. Luckily, we may hit another counter spell off them, so we can have a double protected turn 3 win. So we'll see what happens with that. On the end step before our turn 3, we will cast the Limdul's Vault. I will show you how I do that really quickly on Moxfield. Oh, no, not that. I move all the cards out of my hand. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not it. We do have the Shallow Grave, and I kind of like that. But, you know what? Actually, do I just take the Shallow Grave and go like Sorcery Speed, Unmarked Grave, and hold up the Shallow Grave as an instant speed win with a Mental Misstep backup? There's a universe where we do that. But then it requires our Ragavan to get through. I'm going to show y'all what I do to playtest Ragavan hits. I hit a D4 and I ask the question, how many players have 1 or more blockers? And it's a 1. So in this scenario, no one else has a blocker, so I know my Ragavan's going to get through. Hypothetically, if someone doesn't Bowmasters it, neither here nor there. So there's a universe where I could just keep the Shallow Grave there, or just go Voice of Victory. I could just go Voice of Victory, draw the Shallow Grave next, having the Mental Misstep. Yeah, I could play Voice of Victory, hold up the Boseiju as interaction on the next turn, Boseiju and the Mental Misstep for interaction, and then on my following turn, I go Protected with Voice of Victory, Unmarked Grave into Shallow Grave. So this is where it is not enough information for me to. There's not enough information for me for like I need to actually be in this game to say which is better. But let's say we'll do the safe line. It's a first 5, and also to save time. There's a universe where if I really think this is my window, I could still keep the Shallow Grave and just do Unmarked Grave, pass, hold up the Shallow Grave for instant speed win. But let's just say we just take it safe. We have a Boseiju up for interaction and a Mental Misstep. So let's just play it safe. We'll go. I'll make my pile like this, where say if we get blown out, we'll have the 1 ring draw on our next turn. So we'll Phyrexian Metamorph, that. We'll just play it out like that. And this is like us playing it slow, because in this scenario, what I see, say if we had a known, we knew they had interaction, like the table was over politicking about trying to stop a Mardu push on their turn 4. So yeah, on the turn 4, I'm going into my turn 3. So I want to win after situation. So what I will do is I'll take that Voice of Victory. I will cast it like, well, first I will go to combat, hit them, make a treasure. Now let me make it again. This is not the turbo line. Ooh, this is not the example of a turbo line. This is the example of, and we got 2 blue players. Fuck it, make a treasure. I will tap this and tap this, cast the Voice of Victory, holding up the treasure and the exotic orchard. If push comes to shove, I can both Sage you because I have a Ragavan with 1 and I have a mental misstep. We untap again. There's a Shadow Grave. I'll roll a d4 one more time to see how many players have 1 or more blockers. It's a 1 again, so we're going to attack with our Ragavan. We're going to get the guaranteed treasure. And now we just go tap 1 and 2, cast the Unmarked Grave. This will put a Hoarding Brute Lord into the graveyard. Close and shuffle right here. And then we will go tap and crack 1 treasure. We cast Shallow Grave. That will bring back the Hoarding Brute Lord. And then we will use the Hoarding Brute Lord to go get a Dark Ritual. And then that will let us use that 3 black mana to saw in half it, making 2 copies of Hoarding Brute Lord, token and token. And just for good practice, we'll just say we'll finish everything off with like a Dragon Storm. So we'll use this to cast the Burnt Offering. And we'll use this to go get a Dragon Storm. Boom. That sacks is an additional cost. Tap this to pay the last mana. And also, we also have 2 red floating now. We have a red floating because we can also convoke using the Voice of Victory. Cast a Dragon Storm. Our storm count is Unmarked Grave, Shallow Grave, Dark Ritual, Saw in Half, Burnt Offering, and now the Dragon Storm. So we have 6 copies of Dragon Storm on the stack. That gets every dragon out of our list. Of course, we would just start with a second Dragon Lord Jamoka. Then we will, we'll get a Miram, Sentinel Worm, and then we will go get a Terror of the Peaks. That will trigger the Miram, make a token copy, shoot 5 damage somewhere. Then we will go get a Blade Wing the Risen as our 4th dragon. Yes, because our 5th, we already have Hoarding Brute Lord out. So we'll have with our last trigger for the Marang River region on the stack, we have the win here. Blade Wing will trigger. We're gonna stack the triggers. Oh no, not that, no. Our birds is down here, our voice is down here. As you can see, our board gets a little cluttered. So we have these 4 dragons on board right now. We got Double Silence Effect, Terror of the Peaks. We have a clone of Terror of the Peaks. When this Blade Wing the Risen, it will trigger. You can bring back the original Hoarding Brute Lord, but we're going to ignore all these things just to say cleanly that with these 2 Terror of the Peaks, one will kill the original Blade Wing, the other one will shoot 5 damage or whatever you want. The token copy from Mirror will enter the battlefield, bringing back the Blade Wing, and then 1 trigger will kill the Blade Wing, do 5 damage, and we'll do an infinite loop doing one Blade Wing to kill the original Blade Wing. The other thing will do sets of 4 damage to kill our opponents with infinite damage. And we could have done this on turn 3 with only 1 piece of backup, but we're able to do it with the Voice of Victory. Notably, I also could have done turn 3, since I had 4 mana, I could have just done Unmarked Grave and just hold up the Shallow Grave. But I said, since we have the Voice of Victory and the Shallow Grave, let's just progress the Voice of Victory and win protected on turn 4. Notably, because we're playing against a Kennen, we're playing against a Mardu deck, Tim the Clark, and we're playing against a blue farm. So let's just try to get as much protection. Yes, channel effects do stop this a little bit, but since we're leveraging Boseiju as a point of blowing up people's rocks before we go to our turn or whatever, we can navigate this really strongly, and we have these 2 pieces of interaction to make sure we can untap again. All right, so really great first one. Let's see. Got a question that says, what determines if Necro is worth it for a turbo deck you're building? Is it not in here but in your Golbez? Is it not in here but your Golbez list? Ooh, very good question, D-Trove. All right, so that's a good question. All right, so I'm going to answer the first question. What determines if Necro is worth it in a turbo deck you're building? For me, to be fully transparent, part of it is how committed do I feel towards that deck. If I'm really like think that this is a deck that I'm gonna love and like I'm really gonna want to brew it, unless it is like really goes great with the commander, for example, like low meta commanders like Gobez or Hashiton, where I know I can leverage the low meta commander to get out super explosive like rituals and other things, I usually don't run towards Necro because of the negative synergy it has with the psychological, where you have the capacity to get hated out of games just for running of cards like Adnaz and Necro opponents. I say that though with the addition to I don't have to run Necro because I already run so many ways to win turbo. Like in this example, I just kind of got safe and I won on turn 3. I could have won turn 3 protected, but decided to go turn 4 protected for this line. You know what I'm saying? Double protected with this line. It was an option, but I could have won turn 3, seat 4 with a mental misstep backup. So the question is like, at what time would I want to cast Necro and add extra attention looking at me versus saying, let's just progress the voice, miss a land drop to hold up the Bow Seiju. And if our opponents think we can win with 3 mana, they say, well, you can just go Thassa's Consultation. I'm like, I don't run Consultation. Well, you can go Thassa's Tainted Pact. I don't have either of those cards in. Okay, well, fuck it then. I'm like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? So leveraging, like, I like the strength of having a weaker board state and being able to be very explosive whenever I want to. So for this deck, no. We go to our second part of your question though. Is it not in here but in your Gobez list? Yes, it is in the Gobez list because I think in my observation in Gobez, if you all are not familiar, I believe Gobez is a great Necro list because you are able to get Gobez out so quickly. You can leverage like your Culling the Weak, Mox Amber, and other things to really be explosive either before or after you cast your Necro opponents. And even more, Gobez being a 1/4 means it can sustain itself better through the possible beats that your opponents try to send at you. So you get a turn 1 Necro out, you get a turn 2 Gobez out, you know what I'm saying? All right, by the time they try to swing at you for your to make your turn 3 win worse, if you don't think you can win on turn 2, then you at least have that Gobez Crystal Collector to block, you know what I'm saying? So it's a lot. Like, I threw out a lot of lines there, but I think the consensus is I'm not a huge Necro Adnaz player because I like to have the ability to go late in the game. But when you have such a cheap commander example for Gobez, that's a 2 mana 1/4, I'm like, well, I'm okay with using my life total because I can block more easily, unless they have flyers and other things like that. But no one's gonna value Kennen swing at you or value Timna or any of those other things swing at you when they just say, oh, fuck it, you're on Adnaz, you're on this. I can just sit back and behind my Gobez blocker. But yeah, I'm not usually a huge on those cards. They're powerful, they're great, but just for me, I'm not super heavy on those effects. But good question, Detroit. I pray that I answered it very helpfully. And just to finish off this, notably, we still have 1 Dragonstorm left to go get Marang. Because we have Blade Wing the Risen that could bring back Hoarding Broodlord, we already have a mirror on the board, and we can use the Hoarding Broodlord to go get Draco Genesis. So we can always pivot to that line if our opponent stop us here. All right, with some channel effect. But let's do one more playtest hand. One more. First one was really good. First 7 was a keep. I almost passed it. I can't believe it. But let's roll one more D8 and see how it goes. It's another 4, so we're going 4th again. I am going to deal a first 7. This has no lands in it, and also notably, before I go any further, I need to put a pod together. Let's say seat 1 is Roxai, seat 2 is TNT, and seat 3 is Sisay. First 7 is no lands. We're gonna go check out a second 7. Second 7 is a starting town, a Deathrite Shaman. If I draw land in my first 2 draws, I can have a turn 2 Rhystic, seat 4. And I have part of my combo in hand, and after I get the Rhystic down, I have 3 pieces of interaction. Do I think I'm going to get to the question, rock side? So the first question I would ask, I would politic a little bit. Is this rock side or wrong side? Because if it's rock side, I think progressing to turn 2 Ristic is like, I'm dead. But I always could wait till turn 3, hold up the Swan Song and the Flusterstorm to get through Grit. Like I said, we're a turbo deck first, but depending on how low rock side mulligans and what they're doing, this actually could be playable. The only weakness to this hand that I don't love with it is that if we don't draw a land in our first 2, we are stuck. Well, we have a game plan, fucking survive, but eventually we could progress to Ristic. This is actually a fine 7. It's not the fastest hand, but what I love in 4th seat, I do love Ristic because it helps offset the fact that I have a lower percentage likelihood to win. And I'm not gonna lie, I would keep this. I just need to make sure I can get to my turn 2. If Rockside wins on turn 2, then we're fucked. But we're 4th seed either way, so I'm gonna keep this hand. And my decision on whether to progress the Ristic Study or Swan Song is depending on variables I don't have in front of me. But let's see what happens. Let's play test this hand. Now, I want to show off one very important thing. Like, we're not just keeping this because of Ristic Study. Ristic Study with no other game plan is a solid game plan, but you may get stuck for a while. I'm keeping this hand also because I have a Reanimate, meaning I'm already 1 pieces in hand that can go towards a Hoarding Brute Lord combo. So, or like towards some type of like Reanimate. I just need an Entomb effect, and we run 3 in the list right now: Entomb, Unmarked Grave, and Lively Dirge. So all of these factors matter. You know what I'm saying? We will draw 1. We drew a Gemstone Caverns first. It still gets our Ristic Study out. We'll play this starting town, pay a life, and we'll get out a Deathrite Shaman. We will go to our turn 2. It's another fetch land that's really good. All right, so I'm going to play safe in this example because Rockside is going to go into their turn 3, and this is usually where you lose the game. We notably have a Swan Song, a Flusterstorm, and an Untimely Malfunction, and in addition, we have a Gemstones in hand. So by playing it safe just for 1 more turn and holding off casting our Ristic Study, we can play a protected Ristic Study on turn 3. Slower, yes, but with Rockside going first, I'm already unlikely to untap. I have 0 in free interaction in hand, and what is the likelihood that this either A, resolves, or in addition, we actually get another turn. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sit on my fetch for a little bit. Notably, I'm feeling like I want to either go get a Volcanic or a Volcanic or a Underground Sea, and either just to hold up both of these or whatever. Not, we have a lot of options. All right, so we pass the turn. We don't have the variables, so we're not gonna say, we're just gonna say everything is fine. We'll go to our next turn. We drew a Bowmasters. I'm gonna play my Gemstones. I'm going to go fetch, losing another life. With so many black cards in hand, I'm going to go get an Underground Sea. Black and blues heavy in his hand. I'm going to tap 1, 2, 3. We're saying, let's just say we exile one of our opponent's lands. It's turn 3 at this point. I'm going to play a protected Ristic Study, either with Flusterstorm or Swan Song. And then this is where we are in the mid-range. This is why I talk about turbo consistency, mid-range viability. We are showing ourselves to be a mid-range deck right now, and then late game inevitability. Like I said, in the worst universe, we can start going Tiamat beats once we're getting more mana. Let's just do a simulation for maybe 1 to 2 more turns though. I'll roll a d4 to see how many cards I draw. I draw 1, so I'll draw this 1. It is a Voice of Victory, kind of cool. Nobly, we still have this spell up. We'll just draw for our next turn. We have a Cabal Writ. I'm gonna start ordering my hand for what I see. I have a Bowmasters and Untimely Malfunctions of interaction. I have a lot of interaction. I don't have the other part. Like, part of me wants to progress this voice, but with no reasoning to. I may either A, be tapping myself out of tapping myself out when I have a lot of interaction to hold up. B, bringing attention to myself for no God-given reason. And then C, I allow my opponents to have the opportunity to clone my Voice of Victory when I literally have no win in hand yet. So I would just pass turn 1 more time. Roll a d4. How many cards did I draw? Drew 4 this time. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a pretty cool hand. So before we go into our turn 5, we have a Culling Ritual in hand, a land in hand. So it literally can go land, Culling Ritual. We have an outlet here with being Dragonstorm. We have protection with Daze, Swan Song, Flusterstorm, and Untimely Malfunction. And we can even increase our culling ritual count by right here, boom, boom, flashing out our own Orcish Bowmasters here. Let's go get an Orc Army token. Let's say we were patient with that. And then what I'm looking at for this at this point is I go land, Cabal. We don't have a lot in our graveyard right now, but that's not the end of the world. We go land, Cabal. That's the Cabal ritual mana right here. We have the Daze backup and also a Swan and or a Flusterstorm backup. And so we don't actually need to progress the Voice of Victory because Dragonstorm almost protects itself. We just need our culling ritual to make at least 8 mana, and we can already make 1, 2, 3. So we need our opponents to be able to make at least 5. And so I would just notably have these 2 counter spells up for that turn, but I could just go into my turn 5. I have a Miram in hand. Not the best thing, but it's not the end of the world either. Play the Tarnished Citadel, cast a culling ritual for 3 black, tap this for a green. We would cast the culling ritual. 5 is not allowed to ask for. I usually roll, what I usually do, if I'm gonna be honest, I usually roll a d8 to see, oh, what does our opponents have? It's an 8, so then we'll say it'd be 8, 9, 10, 11 possible mana. If they try to stop this, this is where good old politics or whatever not come into effect. But we have our counter magic. We have a Daze to back this up. We also have a Flusterstorm to back this up, or a Swan Song. And notably, we didn't have to push here. This is just saying what we can do. All right, so, and last notable thing, we can only use one of our counter pieces. So if we want, if this looks like the better package, like the Daze to make them use mana, and then the Flusterstorm to completely blow them out, Culling Ritual comes down, and then I can, let's say if we use this and 1 life to cast the Flusterstorm, then we use this and 3 life. When all this is destroyed, to then cast the Dragonstorm. And why I'm fine with casting the Dragonstorm with no more backup is because the storm triggers resolve. All we need at this point is to go get our Dragonlord Jamoka, Hoarding Brute Lord, and let's do that real quick. We just go get our Dragonlord Jamoka. That's a silence effect. We go get, we can't go get Miram because it's already in hand. We'll get our Hoarding. Well, actually, let's see what his storm is. We have, let's say we had to cast all our counter spells. So we cast a Cabal Ritual, a Culling the Weak, a Daze, so this land should be back in hand, and a Flusterstorm. And then we cast Dragonstorm, so we have 5 copies that can go off, which kind of works out because we already have one of our dragons in hand. What I would do, and this is kind of cheeky, but I'll explain as I'm doing it. What I would do is I would get Dragonlord Jamoka. Then I would go get, and I'll see if all these resolve, then these are all in the graveyard. I would go get then Terror of the Peaks. It'll make sense in a second. It'll make sense in a second. Just go with me. Then I would go get Hoarding Brute Lord. This would trigger the Terror of the Peaks. I would do first this ETB, then that ETB. So what I would do is I could send, or Tear the Peaks first. At first I was going to send the Tear of the Peaks to kill the Hoarding Brew Lord, but you could just do Saw in half right here, destroy the Hoarding Brew Lord, go get burnt off again, Dracogenesis, and then you can end it off by going to get your Blade Wing the Riz, or no, go get actually, does this just win right here at instant speed? It wins right here at instant speed because we go get Saw and a half, then follow that up. No, we don't have an Entomb effect, so we can't do the instant speed line we did in the process. So, but that's okay. What we'll do is send 8 damage somewhere. We're just gonna pivot to a Dracogenesis line. Notably, Dragonstorm says search your library for a dragon card and put it onto the battlefield. Because it specifies a dragon permanent card, we can fail to find. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna fail to find on our Marang, but we will not fail to find on our Blade Wing. So I'll go get Saw in half with this, and I'll go get a Blade Wing. And actually, before I get the Blade Wing, with this trigger on the stack, I would actually Saw in half the Hoarding Brew Lord. The Blade Wing to bring this back. Just to consolidate this, what we would go get with the Saw in half would be Burnt, Offering, and a Dracogenesis. Close and shift. That Burnt Offering and Dracogenesis will allow us to cast Tiamat, and then that Tiamat, and also to go get the Marang from our library. Close and shuffle. And then we can cast the Miram first, cast the Marang, and then now we have the Dracogenesis plus Miram plus Marang combo on lock, and notably we have the Terra Peaks already on board. If for some reason we need to pivot though, we also have the Marang that can send back the Blade Wing the Risen to also do the Marang plus Miram plus Terra the Peaks combo. So we also are layered that way as well. And notably, the trick of this to be performed this line is that we had to leave the Marang in our library intentionally to get it out with Tiamat. Because remember I said, if the Miram comes down after the Marang, it is stuck in your board. And I maybe you can Odawara. You can try to make some mana and Odawara back to hand, but it gets a little inconvenient. But and let's see. Next is we got Nitro saying, "I'm not playing no interaction, Andy." With that being said, I think those are great 2 playtest hands. Like, they were a little bit slower, a little bit more in the mid-rangey because we played things safer. But in that 4th seat on the back seat, we want to make sure that we first get into the game. That's where game 2 allowed us to have that Ristic study. And also where game 1 had that double protected playing against a Kennen and a blue farm. Unless we see them blow out their mat interaction on a Mardu, we have no reason to force a win from what's it called? We have no reason to force a win on turn 3. Let's get down the Voice of Victory and win on turn 4. Nice and simple. But with that being said, y'all know what I gotta say. If you're looking for ways to support the show, we have a plethora. Starting off with our ThunderConductor Community. Check us out for free on Discord. These guys rock. They really allow us to do amazing things like jam games, talk brews, and also talk about the new spoilers. Actually, honestly, y'all let me know down in the comments how y'all feel about the new Sonic spoilers. Those look really cool. Next, if you want awesome perks like early releases, exclusive content, shout-outs on our streams and videos, and free proxies and discount codes, join the Thunder Legion Patreon community. These guys rocking to keep the lights on the way that they could not imagine. I want to give a huge shout out to our Is It tier patrons, Ziggy and the Praetor, and our Mono Red tier patrons, Incognito, Wavy Shira, Bissy Baxon, and B-Rad. And last but not least, we say, hey, TDC, after that deck tech, I thought I've understood what Tiamat can do, but I have no fucking idea what that deck does. And you say, I want to get to know your deck more, or I want to learn how to politic better, or can we make my deck a meta buster? Check out the link in the bio. I offer one-on-one coaching to be able to offer all those services and more. But with that said, thank you all for being an amazing audience, and I will see you all soon in this Tiamat gameplay. Peace.